Tommy Curran. How are we doing today?
Tremendous. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to talk with you. Good to have you on here. We've been discussing several things today, Patriots related. The main one, though, being, and this is something that I think you can certainly give some insight into, Drake Maye. The chorus of praise for Drake Maye has reached, I think, a fever pitch here in Week 11, November 21st, whatever it is. Even Mike McDaniel, you heard, the opposing coach. And it's not unusual for an opposing coach to heap praise on the player or the quarterback of the team they're about to face. But at this point in the season, with what we've seen and all the data that we've gathered so far from Drake Maye, is it your belief that the amount of praise is too little, too much, or just right?
I think it's just right. And I think that light dawns on Marblehead with more and more people as each week passes. I think that for us around here, you watch him against Tennessee and you're like, okay, that's it. We see it. That's the guy. He's really good. They hit it. Good. He's improved a ton. He's only going to get better. I like the cut of his jib. But then the next week, somebody else sees it and they weigh in. And then the next week, somebody else sees it and they weigh in. So I think you have to understand that this wave is going to continue to hit new shores every week. And I know that people are into the eye-rolling stage. And we looked at our email for Boston Sports Tonight today, and my great friend Robbie Snyder, Buckets, said,
Buckets.
Just to be devil's advocate here, I mean, if we've gone overboard, like, no, we haven't gone overboard. The guy's got 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. Of those 6 picks, there was one throwaway that went bad, that he acknowledged should have been a throwaway, should have hit the tuba player. And there was another one where he got undercut against Tennessee. Houston, excuse me. But there hasn't been a single one of those picks where you're like, what the hell was he even thinking? He peed down his leg, lost his poise, panicked, and threw it into a team meeting. None. And that, to me, you're going to have a guy who's going to make mistakes. That's fine with me. He's also been breathtakingly accurate relative to where he was when he came out last year. And I got into a discussion with a friend on Instagram, a listener to our podcast. He's like, what are you talking about? He was accurate in college. He was 63.8 was his worst year. And I said, completion percentage is not the best measure of accuracy. It's one, but it's not the best one. If you look, where does he miss? How much yap do guys get? How bad are his misses? Are they unforced misses? He had a lot of those. He's not having those as much. Wow, that's a good preamble by me.
No, it actually was, because it ties into our interview with Drake Maye on Monday, where I asked him about his improved accuracy, and he's like, I don't really know what you're talking about. I feel like I've always been accurate. So I'm glad you kind of painted it that way, that he has gotten more accurate, because I thought the beginning of last week's game was borderline remarkable how perfect he was. He hits Booty on the slant. That's an incompletion. There was another one to Booty where I think if he fights more for it, he basically has a perfect first quarter, like 13 of 13
throwing
or something.
Sidearm, jump passes. He's doing all sorts of stuff.
I believe, and that ties into my question of Alex Van Pelt. So I was very dubious.
Can I just say one quick thing?
Sure.
For folks who are wondering, as we have this little peeing contest with the quarterback and other folks, go back and watch last year's North Carolina State game. Just watch the first quarter. That's inaccurate. Thank you, buddy. Go.
Yeah. Alex Van Pelt, I've ridden a bit of a roller coaster in recent weeks. I didn't love the hire. I was on the air with Keefe when they hired him. I thought it was a terrible hire. I've kind of grown to like him and what he is, and we have to give him credit absolutely for Drake Maye's development. Then he comes out today and he says something like, yeah, I didn't really know Marcus Jones played offense. He really added something. I'm glad he texted me last week. Where are you on your evolution of how qualified and competent Alex Van Pelt is?
I'm pretty high on him. And okay. I understand that people are inflamed at the latest shiny thing to roll across their desk. And, yeah, he definitely should have been apprised of the talents within their team and maybe gone back to 2022 when the Patriots couldn't generate anything and seen that the little fella had a 65-yard screen that he caught and ran with. That should have been obvious to everybody. I mean, it's not like there's not any carryover at all, so that's a little disturbing. But are we going to look at that detail, alarmingly not passed on to the offensive coordinator as a hanging offense? And I know you're not saying that. I'm being hyperbolic. But and ignore all the other things he's doing. I mean, this team could not score at the beginning of games even as recently as this year. They're actually pretty solid in the first portion of games right now. Last year it was an embarrassment. The year before, kind of an embarrassment. This year they're pretty capable early. He's, as you said, developed a quarterback. I have no idea why Jalen Polk was on the field for a 4th and 1 last week, trick play, apparently, that wasn't going to work, and he jumped off sides. But, you know, I'm a Van Pelt guy with plenty of places where I can see the pimples.
Van Pelt also said, and I think Mayo said this too, that Drake Maye is not an error repeater. Is that a characterization you would agree with? Because it does seem as though, despite the details of the interceptions and things that you just laid out there, he does turn the ball over a good amount, and he has been sort of consistently.
But what are they like? I mean, if it's the same throw over and over, turnovers are going to happen. So do you want him to play like Jacoby? Of course not. You want him to feel himself, figure out what he can do, what he can't do. Tom Brady set his career high in interceptions in his second season after being meticulous in his rookie year with, I think, 18 and 12. And then the next year, I think he went up to 14. It was a career high for picks for him. You're going to have to figure out what you can do. If you're an error repeater, that doesn't mean you threw multiple picks. It's the same pick. Like a guy who strikes out 3 times might strike out on a change up, a curve, and a fastball up and away. That's not you repeated the same act, but it's not the same error necessarily. So I cannot devil's advocate for any other side on Drake Maye right now, except for the fact that what I said, build the team first and then parachute the quarterback in. You're going to be doing that for the next 3 years until he's making $65 million. So they better get it right this year.
They will. Don't worry. They're going to get T. Higgins. They're going to get Will Campbell.
Wait a minute. Hey, Arkin, what do you want to do with Jalen Polk? You want to put him at the end of the driveway after like 9 games?
Not necessarily, but the idea that that's going to be a big part of the offense next year, according to Fowler, they're going to be sticking to these guys and seeing how it goes. I mean, I feel like we've been down this road with these 1st and 2nd round pick wide receivers too many times, Tommy, and I see all the makings of that in Polk right now. So yeah, I mean, kind of. What happened with Tyquan Thornton after his first couple of years?
I agree, and you put him in a prove-it situation, but you have to also give him the opportunities to prove it, I think. I mean, I don't think that they're going to bang it to him 88 times next year unless he proves he can do it. I mean, you can't give up on these fellas that quick. I mean, there's enough, chaff out there with your Jawan Williamses and Duke Dawsons and Cyrus Joneses and Dalton Keens and Devin Asiasis. I mean, they're horrendous. You can't keep throwing these guys out every time they don't work.
Agreed, and I don't necessarily think that that's 100% the case, but if you're sticking with him in lieu of an upgrade, then I think that's a mistake. I think that you need to have a total flush out of this wide receiver room, and if some people get caught up in the bathwater there, then too bad. But that's sort of how I look at it. I'm not thinking there's a lot to hold on to here.
Nope, I agree with that. That's different than recoiling at the prospect of him being given the opportunity to prove that he's not.
Well, maybe
horrendous.
It was a bit of a dramatic flair for the radio, Tommy. It's something I want to do here.
Perfect lead into my next question, because I heard something from your guy, Jerod Mayo, yesterday that I took as a little bit of a shot at his former boss, Bill Belichick. And I want to know if you think it was just coincidental or maybe there was a there. So he was asked about his relationship with Drake Maye, and his response was, I think the head coach always has to have a good relationship with the starting quarterback, and we talk every day. Is there anything there? Was that anything talking about
I don't think so.
Oh, come on, it's radio.
No.
Say something else.
I know. I just think the last thing in his mind, the last thing he wants to do is throw any starter fluid on any conversation with the former head coach. He's got enough going on right now here. I think that he's acknowledging that that's an important thing to have in a vacuum, unless the kid pisses you off and starts calling his old college coaches, and you don't talk to
So
them at
you
all.
do agree with me?
Well, I agree that I note that there's a contrast between the two approaches, but I don't think that Jerod was trying to necessarily highlight said difference.
Damn it.
All right, let's get to our flex of the game presented by FlexCar. Ditch the dealership, save thousands with FlexCar. Second time seeing the Dolphins in Miami. Tua's playing. What's the flex of the game, Tom?
Flex of the game is the Patriots returning to their recipe for coverage when they face teams with 2 very good wideouts. We've seen them deal with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase at the beginning of the year. Actually, one of those guys didn't play that day. Be that as it may.
Higgins didn't.
Last week, you saw Kupp and Nakua. Both the guys are 6'2", 210 plus. So they're a little more difficult to deal with for a Jonathan Jones or a Marcus Jones. So I think that was some of the logic behind playing the amount of zone that they did. However, this week you have guys who have and can match up with those players in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle when you have Jones and Jones. So let's see if they go back to that model and if they have a little bit more success this time around.
Tommy Curran, thanks so much for the time.